I've literally just finished reading Think Like a Monk by Shetty, and I want to do a little review. So, I have read a reasonable amount of self help looking for answers. I eventually came to the conclusion that the self help industry is rubbish, to put it lightly. It is a farce, it is a scam, it is full of books, it's full of people who are releasing books to put their name out there publicly, to give some weight to their status, um, and their books take hours and hours and hours to read and deliver very, 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 very little value. Value, fine, perhaps there's some in the words that they write, but however, how it actually moves the needle of your life is essentially insignificant part some books, okay? Self help is rubbish. Do not read self help. Go out and do things. Action beats authors. However, albeit I had a long hiatus from reading self help, about 4 or 5 years ago, someone, fun enough, in a sauna told me, think like a monk, had a big impact on their life. A few weeks ago, maybe like 3 weeks ago, I was in a bookshop. I desperately needed to get a new book because I didn't have one or I'd just finished mine. Look in this bookshop, nothing. And then just as I'm about to leave, I see this rather large Think Like a Monk. And I thought, wow, that is serendipitous. I think that's a word. So I picked it up and I thought, well, I just have to read this now. I've essentially got no choice. Fate has occurred. It is now time. I'm meant to read this book. First of all, before I go into it, this book was £3.50 in a charity shop, and it is literally no more than that online. The fact that some books are a few pounds is ridiculous. I know I've just shit on all self help, but generally, self help or not, there are some fantastic books that can have such a big implication on your life and are so enjoyable to read, and they cost so little. Like, okay, this costs £3.50, but what you're really paying for it in is the time. Like, this takes hours to read, especially when they're like self help books. Especially if you read a novel, you can kind of blitz through it, time stands still. But self help, they take a little bit more time. But 350, everyone can buy the book. Potentially, yeah, not everyone can read it. But okay, this book does have some weight to it, and I do like it. I do like it a lot. Jay paints a very, very broad picture on life, but life through a spiritual lens. He talks about getting to know yourself, overcoming the fears and obstacles. He talks a lot about finding out a bit about who you are, a bit about what you want to do, how to make that happen, how it can bleed into your relationships and how you carry yourself and what your focuses are. He gives you tools in visualization, meditation, covers a lot of stuff. So overall, I can completely see, and also I agree with Jay that when with self help, right now I've heard about this book, Ways to Win Friends and Influence People. Apparently, that's very good. I haven't read it, or I've listened to it years ago, so I couldn't really comment. Very few books seem to, again, actually move the needle in self help. But I keep doing this. What Jay focuses on is first principles of self help. What is first principles of self help? It's let's declutter all of this rubbish, all these pretend blocks that people have made, right? Let's get back to where it all begins. Literally self help. Let's get back to the self. Let's get back to the self from a spiritual lens. You really need to accept that perhaps all the things that you're doing, all the boxes, all the pigeonholes that you're trying to cram yourself in, knowingly or not, all the desires that you think you have, are ineffective. So, I'm not going to pick it up again. Let's get back to the self, meditate, whatever it is, go about your intentions, do some self discovery, find out who you are, find out the things that are affecting you, and then build from a very, very, very self-centered, self-centered understanding of who you are. Now, does Think Like a Monk give you a blueprint to do that? Yes and no. No book really can give you the template, the specific template you need to fully rejuvenate, fully direct your life. However, it gives you some clues. If I was clueless and then I read this book, it's not going to help me. I just don't think it is. But I think if you've kind of in the flow of something going on, you've kind of got some direction. You need a good prod. I would say yes. To be fair to Jay, one aspect that he does have is his online coaching program. I don't know how much it costs. I don't know if there's a free version, but I certainly think then reading does become action if there is an online group where then you can begin to connect with people, do something, step outside of your comfort zone. That's what's really key. There's nothing uncomfortable about reading a book. You need to step outside your comfort zone to learn about yourself. But uh, given given the condition that you are somewhat happy to step outside your zone of comfort into some sort of adversity, this book can very much help you guide some of those forces and give you some kind of inklings and some clues as to some ideas as to how you could begin really, really, really diving into some transformational self-help. But I think it is too on the surface. It is too fluffy because he's trying to cover lots of different things, which I actually really respect. So I think, look, don't expect it to change your life. However, I mean, although it seemed to for the person who recommended it to me, but this is definitely one of the better self-help books. Use it as an information point to springboard into other types of self-development, perhaps beyond books perhaps beyond books. I think it would then be very beneficial. And I kind of meditate occasionally when I'm just stressed out, or I think, oh, I'm not prepared to do this right now. Like, I'm not prepared to study or whatever, some sort of like maybe transition thing between wakefulness and sleep. He gives some really, really contemporary advice on how, yeah, can say that right? Contemporarily. He gives some really modern and practical tips as to how meditation can fit in to someone living like a Western lifestyle. And for that, I really, really appreciate. He talks about not going, how long did you meditate? How deep did you meditate? I think, yeah, that is a much better way of judging your meditation. It doesn't matter how long you go, it matters how deep you go. It matters how, what, how calm can you get before the fear starts to come up? If the fear dissipates, what comes underneath that's truly, truly excellent. He talks a lot about finding purpose in Dharma, and it's like, yeah, that is, life kind of is always in flow. So it makes sense that you do need to be in life by contributing. It's just a little bit, yeah, it is just a little bit too fluffy for someone who's clueless. I believe anyway. But overall, for the sake of, and I'm not going to judge it's costing £3. I'm going to say, maybe how long did this take me? Yeah, I'm a slow reader, maybe 4 or 5 hours, something like that. It's a worthwhile investment in your time. Jay, you have made me believe in some self-help, and this book is, you can tell he's researched it, or he's had a team research it very well. The quotes in there are lovely. I really appreciate depth you've the depth you've taken in the research, in finding quotes, in embedding your own story. When you read a book that's been churned out, but you've committed to reading it, and it's taking so many hours off your life, and the potential of having read another excellent book that could have that really another book that you could have loved, or could have helped you. Whatever point I'm making. Point is, I really appreciate the the time that's been taken to craft this book, because the people who read it, their time is precious, and you shouldn't waste it. You really shouldn't. And I think lots of self-help books do not care that they're wasting your time, because they just want to get it out there, bit of publicity, bit of money, whatever. Or I think so anyway. But lastly, yeah, thank you very much, Jay. I respect you, and I'm glad this book came into my life when it did. I hope this review helps at least one person decide to or not to read Mr. J. Shetty's Think Like a Monk.